We're going to talk on this series about the nervous system. I've got a kind of a schematic up here for us today. And this nervous system, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, two basic divisions. Central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord. Then we have the peripheral nervous system, which is everything off of the spinal cord, everything below the brain that begins to pick up, process, and operate information for our body. Connecting the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, are neurons that take information back to the brain from the sensory system. These are called the sensory neurons. And then we have neurons that run out and move things, motor neurons. And they're affecting the peripheral system. They come on through the peripheral system, and under the motor part, the part that's doing movement, we have an autonomic and what's called a somatic, or voluntary, involuntary. Within this is where we get the voluntary is like, I'm going to move my arm, I'm going to step over here, I'm going to turn my head towards you. That's the voluntary. The involuntary is there's stuff going on that I'm not thinking about until I mention it, like breathing. Until I said the word breathing, you had no idea you were breathing. Didn't even think about it, unless you're having some disease problem with that. But blinking of the eyes, salivation of the mouth, things, normal functioning of the body, that's in the involuntary. It's going to happen. You can't exercise very much control over it. We can do quite a bit here, perhaps, if we get into the biofeedback type thing, but not necessarily recognized within the definition. It's just something that happens all the time, automatic. Underneath that automatic system, we have the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system. These two, to simplify, would be the operation of all the things like hormones, secretions within the body, all that kind of thing happens within this system. It's all under the peripheral. And then we have the main central brain and spinal cord. And we'll go over here and look at the chart, and I'll give you an idea what that looks like physically within the human body. Have the brain up here protected in the skull. Coming down off the brain stem is the spinal cord. That's the central nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is everything that's starting to run off of it. The major nerves that run down into the arms and into the legs, and then we have the nerves that run to the major organs, and then off of that we have the autonomic, and all that's within that peripheral system, and the feedback system, when the sensory systems. It isn't essential for the average person to know how their body operates, to know what that little schematic looks like. What is important is to understand the basic operation. This system is designed, two functions, to take what's outside here in your environment and allow you to physically communicate with it, to visually interpret it so you can make some appropriate actions, to begin to hear. You've got your sensory system, and that puts you in tune with your relative physical world. Inside, things have to run automatically. We'd be very challenged if while we're trying to walk up the steps, we'd also have to think, okay, now it's time to take a breath, and okay, now my heart needs to make another pump here, and so we have a totally automatic system. It's really kind of a miraculous, this entire organism is really miraculous, and the way it was designed, the fellow that did the design work knew exactly what he was doing. The brain is very well protected. The brain is an organ within our body that very, very seldom ever has problems. The most common problem with that area today might be Alzheimer's. A lot of study, a lot of information says that it might be a depositing of aluminum. Interestingly enough, they don't have any way to find that out. Of course, you know who they are, right? The big they. They don't have any way to find out whether it's an aluminum problem or not until at autopsy. Fortunately, there's no way to go in there and find out. I don't think I'd want someone doing a biopsy of my brain routinely. But during autopsy, people that have had Alzheimer's symptoms, there are lesions in the brain and depositing of aluminum. Used to be a big problem. It still is a big problem, but everybody said, well, the problem was aluminum cans, the problem is aluminum cookware. You can get those things out of your life. The challenge is that it's cumulative. It's considered a heavy metal. We normally don't chelate or pick it up with any of our nutrients to get it out of the body. It deposits when we put it in there. Now, I'm not talking about aluminum as a trace mineral in plants and vegetables and that sort of thing. That's not the kind of aluminum we're talking about. We're talking about aluminum as a grosser inorganic metal. Like, I know some people who grew up, their mother's major cooking device was in a pressure cooker and it was made of aluminum. Well, that just pumps aluminum right into the food. And then I'm sure we all drank some soda pop as kids, unless we were really raised properly, that were done in aluminum cans. Today, there's still a little insidious problem. If you will take a look at children's vitamins, and it's even creeping into adult vitamins, it's always being done in the pharmaceutical type of situation. There's a coloring agent that's come into the vitamin called Lake, L-A-K-E, and I'm going to write that so in case I'm not pronouncing it clearly. And you'll see on a food, especially on a children's vitamin, you'll see no artificial colors. And then you'll turn the thing over and you'll see red lake and blue lake and green lake, and what has happened is that someone struck a deal here along the way, and the pharmaceutical industry has had clearance, and they can call lake not an artificial color, because artificial colors are petroleum derivatives. So because lake is not a petroleum derivative, they slipped through a loophole and said, okay, we can label our bottle not artificial colors. And see, that makes it look like it's a good organic formula, and we can delude people a little bit. If you will find a woman's eyeshadow box with the makeup came in it, and there should be a little flyer in there, and you pull that out, and you read the contents of eyeshadow and other colored makeups, you'll see red lake, blue lake, green lake, all kinds of colors. The word lake comes from exactly what it sounds like. They take a large pool of water, spray aluminum on it, very fine, excuse me, color it, and then grind it up. So what our children are getting in their vitamins is aluminum. Be very careful. Get a good organic formula. Don't go for the lake thing. Pardon. We'll come on down through the system. Well, let's go back up here to the brain. So Alzheimer's is probably the most commonly diagnosed illness for the brain. There's a lot of emotional stuff going on. We've got a nation, I think something like 40% of this nation is on Prozac or some other form, mostly Prozac, of antidepressant. We've been labeled a nation that is chemically imbalanced. Well, it's not that we have a shortage of Prozac. There may be a chemical imbalance. My question is, where did the chemical imbalance come from? It can happen many ways. It can happen by toxins coming into the body. Pardon. It can happen with stress. Body becomes acidic. We talk about that a lot under stress. Everything goes out of balance. Emotional stresses that are internalized, whether they happen, loss of job, loss of something like that, or a long time ago. Emotional stresses inside the body can become physical problems and lead to this chemical imbalance. So to just take a chemical like Prozac and stick it in the body might work here temporarily, but it's not working in here where the root problem is. So we'll talk about some nice supplements, some herbals that will work in this area, but when we start getting into the nervous system, we also should consider looking at emotional work. And so this system, all of our body can be upset with emotional problems, but this one especially, we can get some neurotransmitter problems. We can get some chemical imbalances. And by the way, a headache is not the fact that your body has a shortage of aspirin. It's the fact that there's something else going on. This system can trigger all kinds of things. It can trigger constriction of blood vessels. It can trigger upset in the digestion. If we keep the nervous system fed properly, we keep the body alkaline. That also helps keep this relaxed. We keep the body hydrated, and we'll talk about water again. This system shouldn't give us any problems. We'll talk about some things to feed it. One of the best things you can feed this system is a proper attitude. If you have a stressor in your life and you cannot change the stressor, you change your attitude about it. If you seem to be reacting inappropriately to a situation, you might get to some qualified person to help you find out why you're reacting to that situation. That would be in an inappropriate way that would keep you from growing and being healthy. It's not a system that has too many problems. We get on down here into the peripheral system. There is a serious illness, multiple sclerosis. And essentially what happens there is if you look at this nerve going through your body, it's got a layer of insulation on the outside of it, kind of if you can relate that to an electrical wire or something, called the myelin sheath. And it gets weak spots in it. And what happens is this electrical energy that's going through here as nerves telling different things to move, and you're trying to send it signals, shorts out. And you might get a signal here jumping over here, a signal here jumping over there, or no signal at all. That's a real kind of crude explanation of multiple sclerosis, but that's what happens. There's a Dr. Charaskin who's done some fantastic work here. He took 200 multiple sclerosis patients, was working with them, and found every one of them to be hypoglycemic. Took them off of sugar, put them on a hypoglycemic diet, and their symptoms of multiple sclerosis were cut in half within a week to 10 days. Keep them off of sugar, and the symptoms keep getting less, and then you have to start doing repair work here. I don't know how much further he's gone with the work, whether you can totally reverse the situation, but this damage can at least be symptomatically reduced tremendously by getting a person with multiple sclerosis off of sugar. So if that's what it's doing to them, we should really consider what we're doing to our system with sugar. A little test high school party game we used to play. You take the biggest, strongest guy at the party, and you take this nice, petite little woman, and you take the big guy, and you have him stand about like this, and the lady comes up, and she puts her 2 fingers on his wrists, and he's supposed to raise his arms up. Well, it doesn't take Arnold Schwarzenegger to do that. He can raise his arms up, big, tough guy like that. Then we would take a teaspoon of confectioner's sugar, put it in the mouth, and have him hold it there for maybe half a minute. Puts his arms down like this. Petite little lady comes along, puts her fingers on his wrists. He cannot raise his arms. I don't care if he is Arnold Schwarzenegger at that point. He'll just stretch and strain and fight, and she could stand there with her 2 little fingers and hold his arms down. That sugar entering the body destroys the nerve and muscle system responses. It's that poisonous. So and we use the confectioner's cup. That's like an IV. Under the tongue, it's absorbed sublingual, and this system falls apart. Sugar is the worst thing you can do to this system. So if I had someone that I was working with who was in a multiple sclerosis situation, I would ask them to not even eat fruit until they were more stable. You might bring fruit in back later, but you've got to look at sugar all the way from the very white refined stuff all the way down to a carrot and vegetables. And somewhere in the middle of there, you've got fruit close to the vegetables, and all the rest of this, including fructose of all forms and honey. And I would not do that to a multiple sclerosis person. I'd get that out of their diet. Keep the system clean. Keep sugar out of your diet as much as possible. Stay hydrated, stay alkaline. This system shouldn't give you a lot of trouble. We're going to go over to the other board and look at the supplementation for this. right here on the top of my herbals, some vitamins are, or is rather, water. Just like the rest of the body, the system needs hydration. Everything in the body works better if we will drink the water that's appropriate. And I'm going to give you a little number here. You take your body weight. Let's say you weigh 160 pounds. And we'll make that ounces. And we'll cut it in half. That's 80 ounces. That's what this person should drink. Daily water consumption. Not tea, not coffee. You can't count soup. It's got to be plain water. Hydrate the system. The body will be more relaxed. You will have more neurotransmitters available. Sometimes when you wake up in the morning, you go, oh gosh, I could use a cup of coffee to wake up. You would probably find if you had a glass of water, you'd wake up faster than that cup of coffee. Now, once you've got coffee, a lot of caffeine in your system, the caffeine is a mirror molecule of choline, and choline goes up here into the brain, and this is a neurotransmitter. Well, when you displace the choline with caffeine, and you suddenly stop the caffeine, you now have a raging headache. So if you're going to get somebody off of coffee or heavy caffeine, one small cup of coffee is probably not too bad, but if someone's been a coffee drinker for a long time and they try to stop, they're going to be very, very sick and not happy with us at all. Choline is a B vitamin. You can put them on a B complex because they might not be taking that to begin with. And you have them start drinking water. And that will begin to hydrate the brain. That's an excellent way to wake up. If you're not breathing properly, you're going to shut your brain down. But if you're dehydrated, you're going to shut your brain down. So try a glass of water in the morning. And the way I try to help people get away from, break the habit of drinking either soda or coffee or something of that nature, to deny ourselves something creates a real problem. So what I ask people to do is make a little contract with me. I just ask them to agree that they will be allowed to have their coffee or the soda or whatever it is. And then they agree that that's okay, but then they also have to agree that they will do one thing. And what I ask them to do is go to the kitchen, say, and they fix the pot of coffee and they smell it and they pour the coffee in the cup. But when they pour the coffee in the cup, they also pour a glass of water. And the agreement that we make is that as their counselor, their consultant, I'm allowing them to go ahead and have their coffee if they will agree with me that they will drink the water first. Drink that 8-ounce glass of water, then they can have all the coffee they want. Drink the 8-ounce glass of water, you can have all the soda pop you want. Just every time you have a craving for coffee or soda, fix it. Pour the soda in the glass. Listen to the bubbles. Smell it. But before you let it touch your tongue, you agree that you will drink a glass of water. And then go drink the soda if you want. I guarantee that in a very short period of time, no coffee, no soda. Not the least bit interested in that stuff. First time you try it, they'll drink a glass of water and they'll go suck on the coffee or whatever. And that's okay. And it's going to go, okay. But if they promise and agree to do that every single time for a couple of weeks, off the coffee, off the soda. And the brain will be much more alert. You won't be displacing those neurotransmitters. You'll be more hydrated. Excellent way to help somebody break that habit. We're going to come down here into some of the herbs. Herb chamomile has been around for a long time. Chamomile is very soothing and relaxing to the nervous system. Sometimes a colicky baby, for example, chamomile, a little cup of chamomile tea, that's all they need. It is excellent for us as a before bedtime, little thing, a little cup of tea, chamomile. It's slightly antibiotic, so you get a double benefit out of it. But it's very soothing to the nervous system. Catnip, also correctly known as cat mint. It's in the mint family. In human beings, catnip is very, very soothing and calming. I use a little formula, catnip and fennel, for irritation in babies, specifically colic. The fennel will work on digestion for them and relieve any gas that might be forming. But the catnip relaxes the nervous system. Unlike when you get a cat with catnip, they go nutso first. That's a medical term, by the way, a psychiatry term. They go a little nutso first, and then what happens to the cat? Goes over in the corner, falls down asleep. So ultimately it works on them the same way it does on us. But we skip the nutso stage. We just get real relaxed on it. Catnip, excellent. Lobelia. Lobelia is a nerve muscle relaxer. Can be used through this entire system. Active ingredient lobeline is excellent. That's the thing that does the true nerve and muscle relaxing. It can be used for pains in the body. It can be used for blood pressure where it's being driven up with a nervous situation. Excellent herb. You may have heard some things in the past where, oh, it's toxic, you shouldn't use it. You know, it is self-purging. If someone were to take too much lobelia as the whole plant, not extracted down the lobeline, but as the whole plant, you reach a point where, you know, if a child grabs a bottle of lobelia capsules and they swallow the whole thing, you don't have to call, you know, you might want to be concerned, but give it a half an hour, and what's going to happen? They're going to go and clear everything out. It's not a nausea, sick thing. It's just all of a sudden the body will just reject the lobelia and mucus and everything else that was with it. So used as a whole herb, it's very safe. In small people, like a baby or a small child, lobelia on the chest, used externally, is an excellent way to stop coughing spasms. They're nervous driven and relax all the tissue in the chest. So you might want to use a lobelia extract, maybe a poultice, but it would be excellent. Very safe. You can put it on the bottom of the feet, but anytime you have a coughing, nervous, dry situation, you can use lobelia externally. Valerian, central nervous system relaxer, can lower blood pressure. It's full of also vitamin C and magnesium, calcium, but the active ingredient, the valtropates, were at one time synthesized into Valium. That's why the name is so similar. Valerian in the whole plant, again, is very safe. Only side effect I know of to valerian is the fact that it smells like a dirty undershirt if you take lots of it for a long period of time. It is not addictive. It doesn't cause withdrawal. The problem with extracting it down to its active ingredient and then synthesizing it is all the problems that came with the Valium. Not a problem with valerian. Red clover is here because it kind of feeds the nervous system. The minerals in there are excellent for nourishing your nervous system. It would be something very good for someone under a lot of stress. A little red clover tea, maybe red clover in a combination. I have gotu kola here because it will repair collagen structure. And that's the basic protein forming of the nerve sheaths, the internal structure of the nerves, the brain, everything. So we talked about multiple sclerosis and possibly repairing those lesions. Gotu kola would be something I would consider putting in a formula where you're working with nerve damage and lesions, that kind of thing. Kava, actually kava, a Polynesian product, a root, it's a woody plant, Piper methysticum. It's a pepper-type plant. In the islands, we use it as a common greeting-type drink. Anybody would come to the house for a function, or you would go to a big meeting or something, you know, all the kahunas and the chiefs come around. Everybody gets a little kava. Some of the places in the islands today, and they're doing it in California, they have things called a kava bar. People sit around drinking little cups of coffee, kava. Now, you're not going to be able to, most people, sit around and drink a tremendous amount of kava because, first of all, it tastes like sawdust mixed with pepper. You know. So you take a little kava, and it's very soothing and relaxing. It's on the market today as a wonderful herb for anxiety. That's where would be used mostly. And I'm going to write that up here for you. And bring that down to kava, because it's kind of important. It is fantastic for that, and that's what it should be specifically used for in an herbal sense. And I might point out, to get maximum effect, if someone is really having some anxiety problems, ask them to take it on an empty stomach, about 2 hours away from digestion. Ideally, right before you eat, give it a chance to be digested a little bit, and then eat, or in between meals when you're 2 hours away from digestion. If you just want to use it as a general maintenance anxiety thing, take a couple with each meal. The effect is still there. It's just moderated by digestion. Okay. We've got hops, passion flower, and we're going to put valerian here with that. Okay. It's a little triangle here. Well, it's upside down. Triangle. Okay. These three make an excellent general body relaxer, nervine. Passion flower, valerian hops, they all have similar effects. They're nervines. They're relaxing to the body. But they seem to have specific areas of the body that they're more effective. Now, they'll do the whole body, but they each have a focus. Hops seems to work in the middle, digestive, genital area of the body. Passion flower works from the digestive through the genital, stronger in the genital area. Valerian seems to work strongest in the chest up towards the head. So when you put the three together, you've got an excellent formula for a general body relaxer. There's an interesting little story out here in the herbal field about passion flower. There was a fellow had this herb store, and he had just started training a new clerk, and he had to take off, and this client comes rushing into the store, and he says, "Oh, gosh, I need some herbs to help me out." And the clerk says, "Well, what is the problem? What do you need help with?" And he says, "Well, tell you the truth, I'm going on my honeymoon, and I'm not sure I can perform like I should perform." So the clerk is going, "Oh my gosh, I don't know anything about this stuff yet." And he's looking around, and he sees this passion flower on the shelf, and he goes, "Hey, this is the stuff for you. It'll make you passionate." Wrong. Unhappy client had taken a lot of passion flower, and it relaxes and slows down that particular area of the body. I'm not sure why it got that name, except that maybe it does the opposite. So this is a good triangle, calming, relaxing group of herbs for the body. I have ginkgo biloba here, an ancient herb. It's kind of a reparative for this system. It's mostly here because it'll turn up in a lot of memory formulas. It's an oxygenator of brain tissue. It helps with neurotransmitter work. It seems to do some healing with the Alzheimer's lesion situation. A lot of data to indicate that people taking ginkgo biloba actually improve their short-term memory. It really does work. It's not any marketing plan. There's a lot of research, especially coming from Germany and countries that do this stuff all the time. Definitely should be in a memory formula all the time. But even just in someone who wants to keep their brain a little more alert, a little more oxygenated, ginkgo biloba would be excellent. Last one down here, 5-HTP. Came out on the market maybe 2 years now. It helps your body produce tryptophan, which then affects your serotonin. It is a mood elevator. Now, tryptophan occurs naturally in foods like turkey, some wine, and some hard cheese. There was tryptophan on the market a number of years ago, but there was a contaminated batch of it got into the country. Some people had some problems. FDA took it off the market completely. We've now been able to bring it back in this form because it is not tryptophan in 5-HTP. This 5-HTP is a precursor that will allow your body to turn it into tryptophan and then affect your serotonin uptake. A little suggestion here, if you would go to the herb shop and say, "Oh, I want some 5-HTP," and you buy it. And I've seen 5-HTP combined with valerian, and I've seen 5-HTP by itself. You might not be happy with the results, because for your body to metabolize 5-HTP, it needs B6 and zinc. So if you don't have that in your formula with your 5-HTP, then at least when you take your 5-HTP, take a multiple vitamin with it. Otherwise, your body will not be able to metabolize it properly and turn it into a tryptophan, which then affects the serotonin. Excellent mood elevator. Could also be used in a dietary situation, because when you feel better, most people aren't as hungry. Most of us tend to use food as a drug. It's nurturing, it's comforting. When we're depressed, we eat. You know, whenever you hit your thumb with a hammer or you fell down as a kid, Mom said, "Oh, let me go get you a cookie," and you know, we get fed to take care of pain. So when we're a little depressed, things aren't going well, most of us tend to go eat something. So in a dietary program, 5-HTP has a lot of value. We'll come back through the system a little bit. Don't forget the passion flower, valerian hops combination, catnip and fennel for the kids. Pardon. St. John's wort. This is the one that was hit the market real hard and fast, about 2 years ago. This is the herbal equivalent of Prozac. Not to be used at the same time. Someone is on Prozac, they can wean off, and then go to the St. John's wort. It affects neurotransmitters. I think I picked up a bug in the studio here. Remember water. That's probably where I am. A lot of herbals here. The other A, B, C, D vitamins, basic antioxidant type vitamins would be absolutely essential, working the system. A is real specific to the nervous system. C, collagen structure, coca-cola, remember those two together. Working the nervous system also, there's some tremendous work we can do with the essential oils. Rosemary, for example, is excellent at relieving a headache. Rosemary works up in this area of the body. If you've got someone that's lost some of their 5 senses, but real specifically maybe smell and taste, using rosemary essential oil will help to bring those senses back up to speed a little bit. But it's excellent for relieving a headache, especially a migraine type headache. Rosemary would be very good for that. We talked about chamomile here as an herb, but chamomile as an essential oil is also excellent, calming for the body. You can use it as an aromatherapy. You can use it on the body. Another oil that might be considered would be eucalyptus. I really like eucalyptus working viral situations. Herpes, shingles, anything of that nature. Perhaps paralysis of the face, of Bell's palsy. I would tend to use eucalyptus on the tissue. It also relieves trauma to muscles. It would be good in a bruise formula, but really it's fantastic at working antiviral within the body. Clove is a good one for what might be called nervous fatigue. Someone who's go, 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 go all the time, and they're tired, but they can't slow down. The clove would be kind of calming in that situation. Another good one would be geranium. Geranium is an antidepressant. It's excellent for that. Geranium oil is also real good for smoothing the skin, by the way, ladies, well, guys too. You know. So you get a double benefit. It's an antidepressant. And I would also use geranium, probably with the eucalyptus, in pain in these muscles here, neuralgia, facial neuralgia, maybe something like Bell's palsy or tic-douloureux. It would would mediate that situation to use some geranium oil. So the main thing we need to do is to not expose ourselves to a lot of toxins. Remember I said the worst thing you can do for the system is sugar. That will absolutely weaken and destroy this system the most. Chemicals in the environment are the next most dangerous thing we're exposed to. I have a lot of clients that are getting into what's called environmental sensitivity. And I think it begins with this weakening of the system, probably with sugar. We're a nation that on the average person in this country, and when they run the numbers, they count total population. So you've got 1-minute-old babies to 90-year-old people. On an average, we consume 130 pounds of sugar. Now, I might eat 50, maybe, unintentionally perhaps, or maybe that nice herbal brownie I make once in a while. Who eats the rest of my 75, 85 pounds? Where's that go? Somebody's eating 200 pounds. You weaken your immune system, you weaken this other nervous system, and things are about ready to break down, and you think, well, I'm okay. And then you walk into the hotel room or an office or a bank, and it's been bug sprayed. The EPA has allowed bug spray people, it's been over 2 years now, to de-scent or mask the odor of bug spray. So you never know. The EPA says that bug spray in certain quantities and parts per million, each of those chemicals is non-toxic. The problem is they do not use cumulative dose and they do not use combined dose. If they say chemical A is non-toxic at 8 parts per billion and chemical B is non-toxic at 8 parts per billion, they're safe. Well, your bug spray guy takes A and B and sticks it together. No tests, no data. And he's allowed to do that. One of the other worst things you can put in your body that will start to affect this system is fluoride. And we talked about water. The fluoride, anywhere in your body, begins to pick up these chemical toxins and combine them and generate very deadly poisons. So do the best you can. We can't live in a bubble, but like I like to say, we go through life in a boat. And the boat has some rocks in it. Some of them we put in there ourselves, and some of them other people throw in there. So do the best you can. Take out a rock now and then. Make sure that you're not using chemical bug sprays in your home. Make sure that if you can, don't go into businesses that have been bug sprayed. I had a client who constructed this wonderful environmentally free home because their child was constantly getting a strep infection. Oh, they had everybody tested to see what the problem was, and it wasn't everybody in the family. They had the dog tested to see if it was a carrier, and that was not their problem. So they went through all kinds of stuff, and finally we sat down together, and I said, went through their history, and I said, well, when is this child not under your direct control? Oh, well, he goes to day school. I said, okay, when do these episodes occur? And we went back through their records, and I said, oh, about, almost once a month. He comes down with a, strep problem. I said, go to the day school and find out when they're bug spraying. They did once a month. So they talked to the school, and the school said, hey, we're tired of our kids being sick. We agree with you. And they went to organic bug control. It works. There's out there. There's all kinds of ways to do it. But now they have much healthier people going to their school, and that child has no problems anymore with catching this cold situation all the time. Do the best you can. Take a rock out of your boat now and then. Make sure you're drinking clean water. It doesn't have fluoride in it. It doesn't have a lot of chemicals in it. Don't use bug spray. Use unscented things in your laundry and so forth. Keep your own system strong because you can weaken this system tremendously. When you do, things manifest. Fibromyalgia. There is always a virus manifested in fibromyalgia. And you'll run the blood test and say, oh, you must have had a Epstein-Barr when you were a kid. Did you have mononucleosis? And you say, no. Well, if somebody in your high school had mono, you were exposed, you have Epstein-Barr, it goes and it lives at the base of your spine, and when you weaken your immune system, or something weakens your immune system, it surfaces as a variant. You don't get mononucleosis again, but you get the tissue pain and the joint pain, and you get all the things that seem like maybe the flu a little bit, but it's not the flu. Studies have found variants of polio, 3 different kinds of human herpes, Epstein-Barr, and cytomegalovirus. And they will only be found if you go to some very, very expensive, sophisticated industrial testing. Will not be found, other than the Epstein-Barr, on a medical blood test. Keep the immune system strong. This stuff is around us all the time. Take a rock out of your boat and help other people to do that. That's why we share this information, why we're trying to get these series out to as many people as possible. We appreciate your sharing your time with us so that you can take this information out to people. When we understand how our body works, what we can do to keep it healthy, and the things we can do to repair it, we've given ourselves and other people the gift of health, the gift of a longer, happier, better quality of life. And we really appreciate your sharing your time with us, and we hope you'll do that with others. I give you aloha, and I hope you have a great day. We'd like to remind you that at the beginning of this presentation you saw a disclaimer. And we appreciate it if you would understand that this information is just for educational purposes only. It is never meant to take the place of medical treatment or diagnosis. Please keep that in mind as you share it with people. And we do appreciate your sharing this information with people, because the greatest gift you can give to someone is their health and their well-being and understanding of themselves. We hope you'll do that.